Before y'all say anything, I just watched this movie before I recorded this video, so it's fresh on my mind. Bring It On and its many, many, many sequels is a 2000s teen, and I put emphasis on teen because have you seen how they be acting in the movies? LOL. It's a cheerleading anthology series, often revolving around teen drama and cheer competitions. Originating as a script called Cheer Fever, it was changed by music video director Jessica Benninger due to her inspiration of watching ESPN cheerleading competitions where suburban cheerleaders would mock and appropriate black hip hop culture and dance moves. Before making it into the big screen, Benninger's script was rejected 28 times, y'all. Yes, 28, like 28 times, as studios at the time viewed cheerleading as a corny secondary subject at best. However, Beacon Pictures would then go on to pick up the script, but it would remain in development hell for 4 years. Fun fact, acclaimed director of Silence of the Lambs, Jonathan Demme, I think that's how you pronounce his name, directed it to Universal Pictures, where they decided to back the project and start the movie. The production had many hurdles in capturing the athleticism of cheerleading. Marley Shelton was originally tapped to play the strong, stoic lead Torrance, but opted out to do Sugar and Spice. Reed, the director, offered the role to a then 17-year-old Kirsten Dunst, who you may know as Mary Jane from Spider Man or Judy from Jumanji. I fear y'all that I also know her as Torrance and Mary Jane. Kirsten originally denied the role, only accepting it after meeting with the director and realizing that the script, it needed a little more spice. Reed mandated a grueling cheerleading boot camp for the cast of San Diego to avoid relying on stunt doubles. Funnily enough, Dunst was unable to attend and had to learn the choreo on set. The East Compton Clovers initially served a smaller role in the script. However, the test audiences loved Miss Gabrielle Union's performance, as they should, that the crew decided to film more scenes and the roles became vital to the story. The 2000s were a culturally iconic yet highly problematic decade defined by raunchy culture, mean girl media, and rampant edgy comedy. Entertainment and tabloids normalized body shaming, racial typecasting, and homophobia, issues that have since been heavily scrutinized and reevaluated by modern audiences. The 2000s also promoted an ultra thin aesthetic that deeply influenced society's perception of physical appearance and expectations. Tabloids and fashion magazines scrutinized weight gain and often subjected stars to extreme shaming. The 2000s also saw a violent and rampant use of homophobic slurs in everyday language and as punchline and jokes in movies, often with gay panic, where male characters reacted with horror, disgust, or violent repulsion at the mere fact implication of being perceived as gay, which was used for comedic trope. Minorities were also routinely boxed into offensive and reductive stereotypes. Asian characters were often reduced to the model minority, nerdy, or exoticized. Latino characters were continuously typecast into dangerous gang storylines or treated as spicy. And black characters often defaulted to the sassy best friend trope and were placed in plots that required them to disguise themselves, which was often for uncomfortable laughs. Call me crazy or call me a hater, but I think the movie that balances these character traits the best was really the Fight to the Finish movie with Christina Milian. I remember watching that as a kid and always felt like the way they incorporated Milian's character Lena into like her moving from East LA to Malibu and feeling this sort of like culture shock and not really knowing how to navigate a predominated like all white school was really important for a lot of children to grow up and observe. And I think it also adds nuance to the experiences of like minorities that often go through this type of experience. It really creates and it subverts our expectations and allows us to understand where she's coming from as a character. I think Lena is a good character to observe when you watch the movie. Unfortunately, like most 2000 teen comedies, it relies heavily on homophobic slurs and gay panic for laughs. Male cheerleaders are continuously subjected to homophobic insults by other athletes. The script uses the word fag casually as a standard insult and in casual conversation. A plot point literally involves a male cheerleader, Jan, played by Nathan West, overcompensating with aggressive heterosexuality to prove he is not gay. The central plot revolves around cultural theft, which was a defining systemic issue in the 2000s. The Toros team wins 5 consecutive national championships by explicitly stealing routines from Black East Compton Clovers. The movie highlights how the white team received instant fame, funding, and praise for the work that they did not do alone or create. The Clovers, despite their superior talent, are completely ignored by the media and forced to beg for economic resources just to attend finals. The film contributed significantly to the 2000s raunchy culture boom, which heavily sexualized teenage girls, with camera angles frequently objectifying the teenage characters during routines. Plotlines normalize adult men leering at high school cheerleaders, and dialogue regularly uses sexual availability and purity as a metric to judge a girl's worth. Tried to steal our bit, but you look like shit, but we're the ones who are down with it. Unlike many of its contemporaries, Bring It On is unique as it actually names and confronts some of its own problematic themes. It directly exposes white privilege and systematic racism in sports. The Clovers are not written as tragic villains. They are confident, rightfully angry, and fiercely protective of their intellectual property. As any person honestly would be. Like, I would personally be, very protective over my intellectual property if someone stole it. If I were to write a 10-page essay for a college assignment, I would be upset if that was stolen and rewritten in other people's works. The narrative forces white characters to face their complicity in cultural appropriation and earn their own merit. Growing up with the Bring It On movies as a Black child, it was really interesting watching it as a kid and not really understanding the nuance or the social commentary going on in the movies. However, as an adult, rewatching it, it's low-key problematic, but in a 2000s way, hence the title. There's a scene in the movie where the intercom person is talking about cheerleading, and it's literally a grown man being like, oh, I wish I would have been in cheerleading when I was a kid, seeing all the girls in their skirts and stuff. And like, it's rightfully disgusting because this is a grown man sexualizing teenage girls, but you don't see that when you're a teenager, when you're a kid watching these movies. But as an adult, you obviously take a second turn and you're like, what did he say? Why would you say that? Like, that's disgusting. There is also another scene in the movie where they go to pick up Missy, and it's Torrance, Missy, and then another crewmate, and it's the guy, I forget his name, but he's one of the main characters in the movie, and they're talking about like gayness and stuff. And there's literally a scene where they're like, so, and Missy's character, oh, Eliza, girl, she goes, so you speak, and you're like, mind you, I'm a kid watching this, I'm not putting 2 and 2 together, but as an adult, I'm just like, what? Like, what did you say? Another thing I also wanted to kind of touch up on was Missy's character in the movie. In the movie, Missy kind of has like an arc in the beginning of the film where she kind of gets on Torrance about like the stolen routines. But the things that don't really make sense to me regarding Missy, Eliza Dushku's character, is at first when she gets on Torrance about stealing the routine, she's like super adamant on Torrance, like being like, you need to change the routine, you need to apologize to them, give them back their stolen routine, blase. But then like later in the movie, she kind of she goes along with them stealing the routine. Like, I don't want to say necessarily that her character goes along with them, but like she's so easily like hushed when they were on the field having a meeting about like redoing the cheers, and one of the cheerleaders were like, well, I don't care, I'm gonna still do the cheers because that's what's gonna get us to nationals. And Torrance kind of agrees, and then Torrance looks at Missy and she goes, and then Missy is just kind of like, And so then I'm just like, where did that character development go? Because you were so gung ho about like them not stealing cheers, but then you're complicit in them stealing the cheers because you're okay with that. Bring It On is a good commentary and satirical commentary on problematic stereotypes of the 2000s. However, as an adult, I can't help but be a little turned off by the things that are in the movie. However, overall, the movies are really good. I don't know about that second one. I never watched it. But if you were to ask me to rank which ones were my favorite, it's obviously the original, All or Nothing, and Fight to the Finish. Sometimes maybe In It to Win It, but it really depends how I'm feeling. But I think you guys should give Bring It On a try, go in with an open mind, and see how you like it.